Here we are.
Oh,
This is us.
it's time. This is it.
It is time. We have reached the moment we dreaded for months, mate. For a year,
Mate.
for over a year nearly.
I can't believe this is happening. This is the movie. Since the dawn of Don't Be Hero podcast, we've been talking about this one. And to be honest, it is this film's fault that we're doing this as well as a podcast. Like, it all stemmed from that night when we watched it. It's a big deal. But hello, dear listener. Hello. Welcome to another episode of Don't Be a Hero podcast. Forrest, how are you, my friend?
I am so happy to see your little face.
I'm just like bubbling with anticipation. I'm a little bit like, what are we going to discuss? What are your thoughts? Like, we haven't said a thing since we've watched it the second time.
We've just kept absolutely mute since we watched it, and there's just so much.
It's tense.
I'm tense. I'm excited. I feel like we should go straight in.
I think we need to. Yes.
But Matt, what are we looking at this week?
We are looking at the Eternals.
Yes, we are. The Eternals. That just FYI for people who are listening and going to have no idea, but this is the first time me and Matt have been able to look at each other whilst that music plays, and that was quite a moment. To be fair, I've never seen your face when that music has played. That music
gets me pumped every single time I hear it.
It is. It's outrageous. It's gorgeous. It fills me with all kinds of emotion.
I mean, yeah, it's got everything. I mean, okay, let's not delay. All right, we are here. We've just got to do this. Okay, it's Eternals. We're at the point in Phase 4. We've reached the most, let's say, controversial MCU movie that's been cut to date, being out. We've been very, very, very vocal about our thoughts from the first time I watched
it.
Really? Slightly. A little bit. A little bit. So we've been very vocal about it. I think we're coming in with a preconceived notion that maybe you, dear listener, might be thinking that we're going to be absolutely rinsing this. I don't know. We might be rinsing this for the whole hour. We might not be. Forrest, you might have different thoughts. I might even have different thoughts. Who knows? That's the whole mystery behind this episode. That's why this is a must-listen episode.
Listen to all of it.
Also, before we kick in with your synopsis, Forrest, because I can't wait to hear a synopsis from you and that gorgeous, powerful voice of yours sends shivers down my little spine. It does. We have also put out a story today on Instagram about getting everybody's thoughts as well. So we've got some comments, we've got some reactions as well from other content creators, other podcasts out there.
And if you think our views are loud, some of the views that we have received, this film really brings out fans, haters, everything.
It's decisive. Yeah. Divisive, not decisive. Divisive. That's
divisive. But you're decisive in opinion and divisive in nature. That's it.
That's the one.
That's the
right.
one.
Okay. Hit me up with this synopsis. Forrest, just give it to me, man. I'm brimming with excitement.
Marvel Studios Eternals features an exciting new team of superheroes in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Ancient aliens who have been living on Earth. Just going to turn that down. Who have been living on Earth in secret for thousands of years. Following the events of Avengers Endgame, an unexpected tragedy forces them out of the shadows to reunite against mankind's most ancient enemy, the Deviants.
Oh, think that. Oh, yeah. Take it, pal.
What do we think of that?
That's the most epic synopsis I have ever seen you do. That was incredible.
It was. Oh, if it wasn't for the volume drop that I had to do, I was like, that was 10 out of fucking 10.
That was absolutely. You made that film like it was fucking Scorsese. It was amazing. That was incredible. Wow. I mean, before we go straight into general views, okay, and an overview of what we thought of the second viewing now of Eternals. So we've watched the first one where it came out in the movies, and just to give you some context to this. So me and Forrest go and watch MCU movies all the time, and Eternals was the first one that we went and saw together. And it was the first one where we were like, oh, we should absolutely do this podcast. This is a great idea. And before we went and saw this movie, we were planning this podcast. We were planning what to do, how to format it. And then we went and saw Eternals, and we were like, oh my God, we really need to do this. Like, there is so many thoughts we have with this movie. And there's so many thoughts of what we have with Marvel going forward and stuff. And we've been sharing this for the last couple of years. So it's just kind of one of those monumental moments for both of us. But I think we need to do Tomato Meter before we go straight in. Because I'm so this is the thing. You
are teasing the fuck out of our views.
I mean,
You've got these listeners on a little rope. You have, mate.
It's like one of those horrible like Facebook like TikToks or whatever it is, where you're just watching somebody like light a burner, and it's like it's going to do this, guys. It's going to do it anytime.
Yeah, wait till the end.
It's like a 10-minute video, and you're like, what?
Rotten Tomato Meter. Oh wow. Oh. Okay. So the tomato meter percent is 47%. That is the lowest I think we've come across. The audience score 77%.
Are you joking?
I am not joking.
That is a massive shift.
Huge shift. 47 to 77, yeah.
That is a gap like none other. I don't think we've ever experienced an MCU movie with a gap like that on the tomato meter against the critics and the audience.
But, you know, like I say, it absolutely is divisive, and that shows it.
It's got, I mean, that's it. Right, okay, Forrest, I'm gonna let you go first. Tell me.
All right.
Overview, general thoughts of Eternals before we deep dive into characters and plot.
So my thoughts were I started it on Disney Plus. I looked at the total time and I saw 2.5 hours. And boy, does this film feel like 2.5 hours. It's far too long. There are massive pacing issues. There are massively overly long scenes in which nothing fucking happens. There is too many characters introduced far too quickly. The start of the film has like some rolling like credits, like Star Wars-esque, but actually for the colossal nature of the film, we could have done with a backstory Lord of the Rings-esque montage as opposed to that. All of that out of the way, actually, there were a couple of really nice moments.
You're saying that was great, mate.
There were some lovely moments, and there are some very good characters in it. Also, for a really long film that introduces us to a shitload of new characters, to have the end of the film, by the end of the film, so few of them are either alive or in the same place is utterly absurd.
Yeah. And then introduce more characters.
Yeah. What is the point in bringing in half of them if it anyway, but yeah, we'll talk about that. So generally, okay at best.
Are you being generous there? You said okay. Do you mean that?
You know what? I think I came into it watching it, and I was like, we are giving this such a hard time. I've got to try and find what other people might like about this. I couldn't, but, but there was a couple of good scenes. There we go. Your thoughts?
Okay. You know, we did say in the last episode that we did the episode before that we're going to come into this with a clean slate, right? And I absolutely did. I absolutely did that, right? And I was left feeling incredibly frustrated about this movie in so many ways, and so from the characters to the extent of the characters in terms of their own personal journeys, in terms of line delivery, in terms of script, in terms of sequences, in terms of length. I was frustrated in almost every single area, in terms of visual effects, in terms of even at moments there were like the sound effects were a bit off in terms of like there were certain speeches I was on full blown like my volume and I couldn't hear certain lines, right? And I don't know whether that's delivery, whether that's mixing. In every level it kind of fell short, and I'm annoyed because, and this is where my thought processes have changed and developed from the first time I watched it, because I completely disregarded the whole plot. This is a good plot. This has the potential of being a really strong plot line. And in actual fact, if you're thinking on the wider schemes of things of the MCU, this is a really important story to tell. And it just falls short in every way. And I was like, that is a shame, because this really did have the potential of being something, so like it's like an offshoot of the MCU. It's connected, but it could quite easily be its own entity, right? But it's come, and I think again, this is a fault of timing as well. I think this movie came at the wrong time. I think this either should have come at some point now, or way before we just opened up the multiverse. Like way before phase 2, mate. Like I'm talking about phase 2, Iron Man 2 time. Let's introduce the Eternals and just have this thing hanging in the air, and we'll circle back to it later on. This was just for me, it's unfortunate because I'm annoyed to say this, but I'm doubling down on it. It was an absolute hot mess of a movie.
And it was just covered far too much. Like the scope was far too massive for one film.
I really wanted to enjoy it. I really wanted to like it. I did. Honestly, I did. I tried. All right. I'm so sorry to listen. If you're a person that really enjoys this movie, props to you. I get it. Maybe I can see it, but I cannot get on board with it. I don't know. Two
things really bothered me, right? That I didn't know, or didn't take note of the first time we watched it, but really pissed me off the second time. One is the sheer amount of references to either MCU, so like Thanos, like every mention, the Avengers they talk about at one moment, then they bring in Batman at another moment. It's almost like they know this film isn't good enough, so we're going to bring in everything you do love in order to make this sound appealing in any fucking way.
I mean, they even like with Icarus, they referenced him to Clark Kent and stuff, and like I don't wear a cape. Yeah. I'm like, you don't need to do that. That's cheap, man. Yeah. Like it was funny when Kevin Bacon did it in the Galaxy's holiday special. It's a quick qualm. It works with the James Gunn formula. When you're telling a story like this, don't talk about Batman. Don't talk about Superman. That's just such on the nose stuff that cheapens what I think is actually potentially or could have been a really good dramatic script. Mate. I mean, how do you want to start? Should we start talking about plot? Should we just go? I think we're already there with it, and before we then go into characters,
let's go to plot.
Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and start with this right now. The whole concept of the Eternals, the Celestials, the Deviants, on a cosmic level is really, really interesting. I find that interesting, right? The problem is, and I think this might be how I might be feeling, how you might be feeling with Doctor Strange, by the way. It's such a vast concept that it needs serious detailing in a script to talk about. And I think they glance over it far too much. And when I forgot the Celestial's name, but when he's talking to Cersei and revealing who these Celestials are and what the emergence is, and we're literally making little planets pregnant. Okay, so the Earth is pregnant.
Arishem,
Arishem, yeah. And got that concept of the Celestials. They need to be born. In order for them to be birthed effectively from the Earth is because we are, it's breathing in everybody's inhabitants. The population of the Earth has to reach a certain point in order for that emergence to happen. Great concept, and it links really nicely. And there were certain moments, with Salma Hayek's character as well, talking about Thanos, who within a click, took away half of the population in the universe. And then I think that was the moment I was like, oh my God. And I remember watching it the first time, and I think we spoke about it as well, was that, I've been talking about Thanos was right. I've been talking about actually Thanos isn't the villain here. Thanos, and this is still a theory. This hasn't been proven or even K-Dog approved. But I do think that Thanos, being a Titan, there could be a theory against the fact that he could have also been an Eternal, and he looks like a deviant as well in terms of his facial features, and he could have been an Eternal that was estranged or was aware of the situation of the emergence and decided, actually, I'm going to do this myself. Hence why I'm going to go and become the Mad Titan and take out half a population of everybody on every planet, everywhere, in every galaxy, so he can stop these emergencies happening. So that's what effectively happened. I mean, that was proved by Sam Hayek's line, is that he stopped and slowed down the process of the emergence. But the moment the Avengers brought everybody back, 5 years on, the population is like tripled, and then boom, the emergence is sped up and it started again. And the Avengers are to blame for this. And I just wish, and I think this is where I would have liked it in the script a little bit more, is for them to focus on that moment, less of focusing about everybody else's individual plot lines and known characters, about how they've been surviving on this earth for these thousands of years, with one character suffering from PTSD, effectively, one character suffering about understanding about how evil we are as a human race, somebody who's trying to understand that my job is to make the emergence happen. That's what I'm all here to do. You've got all these separate, just confusing plots that don't have enough screen time to play those out. You should have just focused on that bit, that cosmic thing, where it was the Avengers were to be blamed. We could have had moments where the Eternals could have been fighting against somebody in the Avengers, or blaming somebody in the Avengers, or calling out Nick Fury, or having a go at S.H.I.E.L.D., or having something a little bit more connected to post Endgame storylines.
It felt bizarre that there were the connection. They kept talking about the connection, but then there was no in-film connection. It felt very bizarre, and that's light touch. It's kind of what I was referring to with all the references. It's like, why have all the references when this is an MCU film? You could literally have one of these superheroes come in and like be part of it, and it would give these new characters some fucking gravitas and reason to be established. It's because, especially at the end of the film, with everyone disappearing and in their own clans, it's like, if there was an Avenger in this film, then you'd have been like, okay, at least I have a vague idea when you're going to be coming up next. Whereas, we'll talk about in a bit, is the fact that we have absolutely no idea how the Eternals are coming back in any capacity.
They kind of like, they were together, they split up, they came together, they split up again. And it's like, that's all in a 2.5 hour movie. And you're also, in terms of time, talking about thousands of years.
Yeah, it's way too big a film. Like the whole reunion bit goes on for so long. They're just like, okay, we're going to talk to this character, and I think it's their way of going, we want to introduce you to these characters and then have a little bit of backstory, a little bit about their life. But there's too many of them to get that fairly. Do you know, to get it fit, like I would have preferred a lot more about Makari. I would have loved far more about Makari. I think her character is brilliant. I love that actress as well. But you know, apart from her running around all over the place, we don't actually
get much.
You know,
I'd say that her character is the one character we don't get much backstory like if any at all. You know,
and they've been there for centuries. They've been there for centuries, so there's gonna be loads of story, like loads of information about her.
Like there was a moment with is it Phastos? Phastos?
Oh yeah.
Fastos. Fastos.
Fastos. It's Fastos.
It's Fastos, isn't it? It's not Fastos.
Mr. Fastos coming at you. Yeah, Fastos. Which is played by Brian Tyree Henry, and he's great.
He is brilliant. But like his character and his story and his journey, I found really, really interesting. And when they even showed the moments where the Hiroshima bomb went, and he was like, "I'm to blame," I'm like, "Oh my God, I want to know about that. How did that happen? What did you do?" You know, I know the fact that before that it was about the fact that he was going, "Oh, I've made a steam engine." And it's like, "Oh, you're a couple hundred years too early for that." You know, here's a plow instead. Like, and so he's trying to sort of get, you know, civilization to evolve a little bit quicker than they should be. And then that is the culmination of going, maybe I went a step too far and I've caused an atomic bomb to happen and a disaster to happen. And he feels responsible and he feels to blame. And then he kind of exiles himself from that point onwards. But that is a story. That is a story. That is character depth. We didn't get enough time to digest what happened there or to empathize with this character that much. You know, it should. These are the moments I think a lot of people have said. You know, and we will talk about comments as well later. And I think one of them was that this should have been a TV series, right? And I think it should have been. You know, I think they should have spent a little bit more time. Maybe doing, I don't know, a couple of episodes, 3 episodes of just telling them more about the characters. And then that follows into a very soon release of a feature film. I don't know. They could have done it like that. That would have been the first of its kind. Do a little short series. And then really shortly after, we're going to do a movie version that continues from these previous stories. That's quite an interesting concept.
Yeah, or I think you've got either that option or another option, which is to have that buy-in from another Avenger. You could have someone like Captain Marvel, who will have the history and have a knowledge, it's another Avenger could have mentioned this whole thing about Eternals, Deviants, and Celestials in their own film. Yeah, and then we get this film. So we've got that buy-in from another Avenger because you're like, okay, my favorite Avenger has mentioned it, so I'm going to go and watch this film with that new people. Brilliant. And also you'd have got a smither of some of the information. Slither, not a smither. Sliver of some information, but.
Yeah, I think I think in terms of just looking at the characters and how they're each played out, there wasn't enough screen time. And again, to think of it as a 2.5-hour movie, they quite clearly didn't know what to do with that. I think they were quite conscious of the fact that they've got so many new superheroes to introduce, so many new stories to introduce, and they were aware that there wasn't enough time to do that and also play a thread. I think it just buckled at its own faults, and I think it had the potential of it being played out better. And I think it should just could have been presented differently. It should have come earlier. I do believe it should have come earlier. Just the fact that we've just had Loki, we've just opened up the multiverse, we've had Doctor Strange, we're trying to understand all of this concept, and now you're throwing Celestials at us like there's a literal Celestial living in the planet. Like what?
And because they're brand new characters, I would have liked a roadmap of how they're going to be used. Because if you'd have had that before or as the film was launching, yet again you got more buy-in, right? Fantastic Four, Wit and X-Men and all that, you're going to know the roadmap, right? It's going to be a really cleir roadmap of what as soon as they are introduced, I can guarantee we're going to have an idea of how they're going to be. You know, I mean, if you're a full-on Marvel fan, you'll know anyway. You know, comic book, whatever. But actually, even if you're just watching the films, I'm sure there's going to be a roadmap of understanding of where they're going to be brought in. Eternals is just like, oh, here you go. Here's a load of people. All right, you'll see them soon. Okay. All right. Brilliant.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Oh, that thing that happened to Earth at the end of the episode has only been mentioned as a news ticker and one single thing since.
Yeah. I think in terms of certain plot lines that upset me, and I'll one of the main ones, again, going back to kind of the emergence sort of plot, is that how the Celestial, was it Erithon? What did you say again? Arisham. God, Arisham. Names, mate. Arisham, right?
Which I believe is a lovely place in Norfolk as well. I believe there's a lovely Aylsham in Norfolk. It is a lovely little market town.
Amazing. Big up Aylsham.
Aylsham cookies, the finest cookies.
Sponsors this episode of Don't Be a Hero podcast. Who is played by David Kay, by the way? I've just found that out. There we go. David Kay does great voice acting. But the explanation of going, so when these planets were created and we put the seed down for the Celestial, what we did is we created some deviants to fight off all the people so it can sort of keep the balance. But then I realized actually they're evolving and they're eating everybody, all the resources. So actually then we brought the Eternals in so we can then feed the population of the Earth and resources to fight the deviants, to create this yin and yang kind of effect. And he kind of goes, I realized I messed up. So I created you guys instead. And it was just like it was so throwaway. Yeah. And I was like, that's, I think that was probably a better way of describing that and explaining it.
Do you know what, another thing that's dawned on me, right, is that this film has so many, goes back on its, contradicts itself. So the, I was about to call them the derelicts. What are they called? What was that?
Deviants.
The derelicts. The deviants are they were sent there to be positive, and then they were negative. So they were positive force initially, and then turned negative. And then you've got the Eternals, who are exactly the same. Thought they were positive, turned out to be negative. Icarus is established as a decent person, then is a prick. Then you've got there was another one that I was literally thinking of. There's all of these.
Sprite does it as well.
Oh yeah, Sprite. You think is good, then turns bad. You've got they're all reunited, then they're not reunited, and then they all disappear and go away. And I'm like, it's just so there's no fucking staying with one thread. It's like, you thought this, it's going to be that. Oh, you thought this, it's going to be that. Oh, and all the while, someone's Kingo's making a documentary. I'm like, what on earth is this?
Well, I think with Kingo's character, we needed that comedy effect. I think we needed those one-liners in there. But I think in terms of, again, it just felt like we needed more from that as well. And you could see there was a moment where Sprite in the early days was showing the story of Icarus, which then kind of goes into the mythology of Icarus as well. And you can see that Kingo was going, oh my God, this kind of element of spectacle looks amazing. And then obviously 300 years later happens, we get the we get pictures and moving pictures and that kind of stuff. So he joins the entertainment business. You can see that through his acting, and he's a really great actor. But that's the only explanation we get for his impetus to do what he did. And he tells us later, but it just goes to show that they just really focused in on a couple of characters' journeys. I think Kingo was probably out of the last group to be told a little story, a little bit more to his kind of development, because he's got his camera guy following him around and stuff. I just don't know. It just felt like it wasn't needed at times. I think you probably could have spent that screen time just telling more about the main thread. You know, keep it nice and simple. Maybe just go, look, we are the Eternals. We've kept together. We've been together for a few thousand years, staying in this one place. We're still together. We haven't split apart. You know, yeah, we've had an argument. Icarus can bugger off. That's fine. You can do that. He can still bugger off and go, oh, no, I'm angry at you. And he can come back later. But I think just keep everybody together so you can have more screen time and more script time to tell the bigger picture, because the emergence is the main thread. And that has a lot of ties to I'll say it again, the golden thread.
Oh, it's one of these golden thread.
Yeah, you've got to be precious about that golden thread. You've all got a duty, you know, fucking hell, MCU directors and script writers, you've got a duty, right?
This film fucking smashes it, mate. It just smashes it. Cuts it up and chucks it off. And goes, you don't fucking need a golden thread. We're just gonna shit. We're gonna shit all over your golden thread. Enjoy that. Have 2.5 hours of that shit. Enjoy yourself.
That's exactly what they do. That's exactly it.
Yep.
That's exactly it. Okay, were there any? We need to flip it onto the positives now. Were there any plot points or any sequences in the script that you did enjoy?
No.
Okay, next. All right.
I fucking hate it all. No, I said Makari. I love Makari's character. So Lauren Ridloff, she is in The Walking Dead. Was the first deaf character in The Walking Dead, and was incredible, right? And I love that. I love that actress, and I think she's brilliant in this. That was, every scene there. Like you say, Fastos, that was great. His kind of the technology plot I quite enjoyed, and about, you know, if you're in charge, like not in charge of that, but if you have that power for civilization, how fast do you evolve civilization and all of that? I quite like that. Mm-hmm. I thought Icarus. I hated Icarus in this. There's just no redeeming factor to the character. The romance was so shoehorned in, absolutely shoehorned in with Cersei. It's just, oh god.
I mean, I know you're not meant to like him, but he does the brooding and the deadpan just too much, to the point that when he does try to show range and emotions, and he did do that later when he's just kind of like a bit, and he's upset about flipping Ajax's death and stuff. Mm-hmm. It just doesn't work. There's no depth in his character. It's all very two-dimensional.
Yeah, and surely you should like him initially, because surely the whole point of the Ajax death, right, is that Ajax death is that comes as a surprise. You're literally like, oh my god, Icarus did that. Icarus has known all along, but you don't, because the way it's played throughout. So the way Richard Madden plays Icarus is like a dick throughout, and so there is no redeeming. Cersei would never have got with someone like him. He's got no redeeming features. No, not like, and that's what I didn't get. If you're in there, the whole point of that death was to be shock value, and it was fuck all shock value, because you just like, classic Icarus being a dick, like
literally a Messiah complex, mate. That's what that was, a massive Messiah complex. I'm gonna now fly myself into the sun. Off I go, guys. I'm gonna do this because I'm such a tortured soul. Like, it's just like, no, we don't care. We don't care. Like, you're absolutely right. There's no redeeming factors. I mean, if anything, I think we should have seen a little bit more about, you know, maybe him being a bit conflicted about understanding the emergence and going, well, actually, I want to protect my friends. You know, actually, I want to be here for them. I know I've got the emergence to do, but what do I do? You know, maybe he should. And this is the other thing, like, he does, you know, help out. He did, you know, when he was with Cersei, you know, just before the very first sex scene that happens in the MCU, he helps out the community and stuff, right? Yeah. That was the perfect moment for him to go, oh, wow. Oh, I feel like I'm making a difference. Oh, this is quite amazing. oh, but you know, it doesn't matter. In a few thousand years' time, they're going to all die because of the emergence. Like, we should have seen that conflict a little bit more, just to give a little bit more depth for him. But yeah, MCU first sex scene, mate.
I
Thoughts?
know. Oh, do you know what? I missed it again in this film because I'm pretty sure I missed it the first time because we came out and you were like, "Oh my god!" and I was like, "What?" I think I missed it again. Is it early in the film?
It's like within the first 45 minutes, I'd say.
Yeah, I think I definitely missed that, mate.
That's amazing. Yeah,
Missed,
well, it happens at that just
twice in a
before
row.
the moment I was describing. But like, it's like, again, I think I've said this to you before. Why? Why do we need that? Like, I don't just so we can say it's the first. Like, I again, this is me being presumptuous, but like, are they doing that just because they knew that this would confuse audiences? Let's just put in something that people are going to remember by, you know, with these two characters. I don't know. Display of love and affection could be done so vastly and so differently, and I wonder whether the reasoning behind it is the fact they aren't human, and they're navigating those emotions and and that intimacy, and that's that's how it's done, right? So in terms of that level of intimacy, if you got to that point, then they're just exploring that. But equally, it could have been probably done differently or not at all. I don't know. It just didn't serve anything.
We're assuming that Icarus is dead at the end, right? He's flown to the sun. Which, by the way, every time I saw Icarus on screen anyway, I constantly, do you know Bastille's song Icarus?
Yeah.
I always had that in my mind. And as he was flying to the sun, I was like, I don't know why, but I just do. Every time I see Icarus on screen, Bastille.
That's what it
is. That's completely ruined what I
That's completely threw you.
That's completely thrown me that I said that. What were we talking about before? We were talking about sex scene and then
whether it was needed or not. Was it needed? Yeah. Did you want it to happen?
Oh, no, because then you were got it, remember. Because then you mentioned about what was it needed for? Now, if you assume that Icarus is dead at the end, could it be because we're going to get a baby Eternal?
Birthing what from where? The sun? Is that what you think that is? Do you think he's implanting himself into the sun?
No, what are you on about?
Are you
baby
talking about
Eternal? Cersei, yeah.
Mate, that sex scene happened thousands of years ago.
Maybe it takes Matt, I told you yeah, of course it did, because they're not together now, so that would make absolute sense. Yes.
Got Eternals, like pregnant Eternals, it takes literally hundreds of thousands of years for them to give birth.
I mean, we're supposed to believe that Sprite has stayed the same age for,
Well, that's true.
But also they've all stayed the same age, but somehow Sprite is young. I don't get that.
Let's talk about that. We're talking about characters now. So Sprite, first things first. If you are a character that's playing a young character that's been alive for thousands of years, though you may be a young character, your development and maturity would have changed. So therefore you would not be acting like a child and reacting like a youth. I think if you're thousands of years old, all right, you'd be acting very differently.
Completely agree.
And that wasn't played in the movie. I think in terms of the choices that Sprite was making was very adolescent-based choices. And I don't think that was probably the right thing to do. I think you probably could have done it in the early years when we first established the character. Yeah, maybe. But I think she should have been way more jaded. She should have been way more hardened, way more kind of cutthroat. It would have been almost quite funny if she was like smoking and drinking and just being like, fuck you guys, being more potty mouthed and being like, you guys are wankers. Look at me, I look like a petulant child. I'm 1,000 years old. Stuff like that. That would have been one, funnier. You could probably take the comedic effect away from Kingo a little bit and put it into Sprite. It just would have given more depth. But no, we got this kind of weird she was in love with Icarus, and it's just like that makes you feel a little bit uncomfortable because that's just like, well, that's
a little bit grim.
A bit grim.
It needed to be one extreme or the other. She's either a child and absolutely like all the other Eternals are like, can you shut up? Like a shut up Meg scenario, proper child, or she needed to be like a very mature woman who looks like a child. So it's just a very like,
The other thing that really pissed me off with Sprite's role, the conclusion of her role was the fact that she wants to just have a normal human life. And then Cersei at the end, she's like, oh, by the way, Sprite, I've got a little bit of the Unimind powers still. I think I can make you a human now. It's like, okay,
a human.
We're just going to shoehorn that in. That wasn't ever explained at any given point through the movie, and you've just decided we're going to solve this situation by that now. Okay, cool, fine.
And what does that mean? What does that mean going forward as well then? So because I'm like, what? Like we didn't. I thought it meant that we might get a little scene at the end of Sprite as an adult human, or whatever. No, absolutely fuck all. So she's just gonna. Like, I feel like it's going to be like it's going to be like a Titanic scenario in about like 2 phases time, where she's like, 84 years ago, I remember I was a turtle. I was a child for centuries and centuries. Now look at me now. I'm dying in my rocking chair. It wasn't such a life, Matthew. It wasn't such a life at all.
I think in terms of
let's just skip over that.
I can't follow that. I can't continue that. Kit Harington. Let's talk about Kit Harington.
Dane Whitman.
AKA Black Knight.
Ooh.
Or not. Who knows now? I don't even know now. It was teased, but we haven't heard anything since.
No, he's all right. We
didn't get enough. I think this, in terms of it starting, you go, okay, cool. You've got this relationship. I quite liked the relationship balance he had with Cersei. I think they both worked really well as well in terms of like performances. I wanted to know more about their relationship. I wish there were kind of moments where Cersei was maybe in mid-battle or being off planet or being in this kind of story that she's in and having this kind of like, I don't know, maybe more of a love triangle situation happening. That could have been a potential. Probably wouldn't be bothered that much, but I think we could have seen a little bit more character development with Kit Harington's role. And then, because then that pays off a little bit more towards the end, because he just comes back at the end and then he gets his own end credit sequence with them potentially introducing Blade. And it's like, what? Okay.
Where's this come from?
It's so resting on the laurels that everybody loves a bit of Kit Harington. And also, they like you said, I think they're very much riding on the Game of Thrones thing. The fact that you have Robert Stark and Jon Snow just looking at each other and just introducing each other as different roles. It's like that's, again, quite on
Cersei.
the nose.
You've got Cersei. The name Cersei. Yeah.
Exactly. And also, I think the composer was the guy that wrote the theme song for Game of Thrones. So it's all very intertwined.
Yeah. It's I would like to talk about Druig next.
Okay.
What are your thoughts on Druig?
I really rate Barry Keogh as a performer, as an actor. I think people really hate him or you love him, but I think he's done some really great performances. And I think this was a role I was like, you didn't need to do this movie, mate. You didn't need to do this movie at all. I think you could have done something else. And I know he's currently intertwined with Matt Reeves's Batman series with Robert Pattinson as potentially playing Joker. But like, I think with this, it was just like, again, he did what he could with it. It wasn't enough. It just wasn't enough depth. He was a bit inaudible at times. He's the person that I turned up to because I was like, I can't hear what you're saying. Like, it was,
It's just the lack of third dimensional characters in this film.
Yeah,
is really painful. Like he's just proper moody the whole time. oh bloody how else am I supposed to deal with this newfound knowledge about us being horrible people? I'm like, fuck, it's just yeah. Didn't rate it. I think if my favourites, I would probably say were Gemma Chan as Cersei. I thought
Cersei, she was a great performance.
Cersei's good. Kingo, just because he was strong with it. I thought the comedy was all right, and he at least had a clear character. I really like Gilgamesh.
Gilgamesh was a good role, yeah.
And Fastos and Makari. They're my favourites.
Yeah. Let's talk about Angelina Jolie then as Athena. Thoughts?
And it's just another one where it was just so we didn't get enough of her when she's not got that. Oh, God, I'm gonna have to look that up in a minute. Madid Weri, whatever it is. Do you know what
I know you're talking about that.
Yeah, we didn't see enough of her outside of that. For me, I felt we rarely saw the character outside of being extremely troubled. Yeah, and that for me wasn't great. I thought Angelina Jolie did her best with that, and it was good. But I would have liked to have seen that character without them.
I think Salma Hayek and Angelina Jolie were asked, and this is complete rumor, and this is not factual. This is what I'm thinking. Okay,
Rumorville.
All right, I'm just literally throwing it out there now, dear listeners. Don't spout any bullshit that I'm saying, but like, I think that K-Dog must have went to Salma Hayek and especially Angelina Jolie in the early phases of MCU and going, "Hey, would you like to be part of these projects?" And they've turned it down, and it's become this massive success now. And they've gone, "Oh, would you like to be part of this new project called The Eternals?" And they're like, "Yeah, sure, great, yeah, let's really good exposure. Let's absolutely go for it. MCU, yeah, it's massive, isn't it?" And then this has been a massive backfire. We did not need, I don't think, the likes of Salma Hayek or Angelina Jolie in a movie like this. I think, if anything, it probably would have been benefited if all of these characters were completely unknown actors or actresses. I think the role for Athena is, again, an interesting concept. I think in terms of the mythology behind Athena, the goddess of war, I think you've got tie-ins there. We could have quite easily have had a little montage of her just in historical battles, absolutely caning it, and just getting weary from war and getting weary from fighting, and then justifying the PTSD that she's going through. Again, it's the same thing where we're talking about Iron Man post Avengers Assemble, post Battle of New York, that he's effectively going through PTSD. When you're doing that, you've got to do it sensitively, you've got to do it correctly, and you've got to give it its dues. It just doesn't play out enough, I don't think. And in terms of what happens later, in terms of what happens with, even when Gilgamesh perishes in the middle of the movie, I'm like, okay, and I mean, all right, fair enough. He's doing kind of the whole savior thing, but what does that do with your character? What does that do to your character? And it didn't really change much at all. Yeah, but it was a miss. It was a miss. It's a shame. It's a shame. Fuck. This is the thing. I really was rooting for a change of perspective, and I can just see that they had the potential, and it just missed. It missed. Yeah, massively. In terms of characters, are there any? Let's do this. Side characters. Character.
On with Rotten Tomatoes it gives you like 4 cast members. It's so annoying.
Really? I've got Liam Neeson in here somehow.
Liam Neeson?
I don't know.
Liam Neeson?
And Bill Skarsgård, apparently. But like that and John Cena. That cannot be the case.
John Cena. Absolutely not.
In terms of, for me, side characters, I'll give you straight away, side character, it's got to be Harry Styles. Oh my God.
Is your favourite one?
I'm joking.
Oh, come on, mate.
I'm joking.
Come on.
I'm joking. Or am I? Or am I?
Actually, Bill Skarsgård, does he not? No. It's Pip, isn't it? The troll thing.
Isn't that Patton Oswalt?
Oh,
Pip,
might well be.
I think.
Pippity Pip.
Or you think? Yeah, I don't know who. Is Bill Skarsgård? Is he the evil deviant that talks?
Oh, possibly.
I don't know.
That's the thing. You've said about favourite, like, secondary character. There isn't many secondary characters because we've got so many primary characters.
Yeah,
that actually it would be
issue.
Insane for them to provide any secondary characters.
That is the issue. Like there isn't. There's no side characters as such, other than like Kingo's other sort of manager. Karun, but like I don't. It goes to show, doesn't it? They're just trying to throw in so many different stories. They didn't have time to really have any side characters. You could argue that Kit Harington's role is a side character, but
funnily enough, I was just about to say that. Actually, saw his face again. I thought, actually, I suppose you could count him as a side character, but yeah, no, I think there isn't really. I'm not someone I'd go, oh yeah, they were good.
Did you care much for the introduction of Harry Styles as Star Fox?
Eros. Do you know what? I did. Because I think if that was anyone else, then I think we'd enjoy it. Because actually, their arrival kind of got me into the world of Thor, like because they arrive with like multicolored kind of teleport.
It looks like they're coming through the Bifrost. Yeah,
Bifrost. Yeah, exactly. So it kind of gives that. You get a mention of Thanos. You get a mention of you get Pip, who I find Pip quite a cool character. I think actually, it's a nice bit, and I am genuinely intrigued to see where they go with that. K-Dog and everyone involved has been quite ambiguous as to when we're gonna. They're pretty clear that we are going to see more of Pip and Eros, but there's been no clarification as to when we're going to see it.
Well, but that goes to show with Eternals too. Now, until recently, they have now been included in the sort of upcoming slate, but it hasn't been definitively placed where that might be for Eternals 2. It's in the really, really early phases of development, we've been told. But that's as of May. So, I mean, I think we need to get, and I can't believe I'm saying this, but I think we need a second one just because we need more of an explanation about these stories going forward. But
I think, well, another thing that kind of dawned on me at the end of this is that Marvel are going to get themselves in a little bit of trouble because they are starting to have too many characters or groups that are so fundamental to the universe and to each other. Yeah. So at the moment we've got Super Skrulls from Secret Invasion. Have you watched the second episode of Secret Invasion, by the way? Honestly, I'm gonna kill you, mate. I cannot believe. I
promise you, I'm gonna do it as soon as I finish this with you, mate.
You better, mate. And I want to text as soon as you finished it.
All right.
Anyway, so we've got Super Skrulls, which is linked to Fantastic Four or X-Men. Fantastic Four. So Super Skrulls, Fantastic Four. You've got, and Super Skrulls are like a massive universal, like blah 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 ramifications. You've got this massive ramifications. You've got Doctor Strange and everything that's happening there. And there was something else that's a bit more bigger. What's the big thing that we're? Oh my god, what's out there at the moment?
Multiverse.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. A multiverse, just any aspect of the multiverse, I suppose. It's just so like, do you know what I mean? Like there are so many characters that could potentially click the switch and kill the universe or kill the planet or whatever. It's getting for me a little bit into territory where everything's too big.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
and it's joining
too
with
much.
too many worlds. Where it's like, okay, so and I suppose Kang, Loki, TVA. I'm like fucking hell. How are they going to juggle all of these different? And that's I suppose what I'm getting at, Matt. That's the danger of having a universe with MCU. If you had lots of different films that had no connection, you can get away with each film having its own massive ramifications for its own universe, right? But the fact that this is an MCU, it becomes a little bit tricky because how many times can you get rid of this Earth, or how many times? As soon as you do it once, then we have to be put in another
timeline.
Another timeline. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. It's you're absolutely right. The problem is that the MCU right now do not have any clear direction in terms of where we are heading to. We've got the movie slates, that's all fine, but how are these stories being played out? It was a little bit more obvious with phase 1, 2, 3 towards getting to Endgame, but we've just got this kind of like, we've got Kang Dynasty and we've got Secret Wars, and it's still like we've got Fantastic Four to do. We've still got an X-Men. We've got Deadpool 3 that needs to come out and introduced into the MCU now. We've got loads of other projects that are happening in between, and it's just like, well, where is this all heading? I know we all know, most of us already know what Secret Wars is about, but like, who's going to be part of that story, and who's going to be involved in that? Ultimately, we've got potentially a whole bigger villain that needs to be played out as well in that story. So I don't know. We'll
I think you raised in like one of the podcasts about the idea that after we have the Kang dynasty, that maybe they won't have the MCU in the same way that we have it. So we might have 3, let's say, different timelines that we stick with. So we might have Earth 275, whatever, like different versions of Earth, and they split up the MCU. So you're like, okay, this is these bunch of films are going to exist in this timeline. These bunch of films in this timeline. These bunch of films in this timeline.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I think that's what we'll head to. I think we'll probably be playing out different universes. Deadpool 3, in terms of hot news off the press as well, until I think yesterday a news broke out in terms of confirming that Elizabeth Olsen is going to be in Deadpool 3, and it's actually going to be the Wanda 838 version that was in Multiverse of Madness. So we'll have a 616 teaser apparently in Agatha Covenant of Chaos, and an 838 Wanda being played out in Deadpool 3. So what you are saying is happening potentially already. So we'll just have to wait and see. Mate, I realise about the time we need to read some comments. So we've been very vocal about Eternals, but we put a post out on our Instagram stories this morning about getting other people's views. We've got a couple of comments, so let's read them out. Let's see what we've got. And this is the thing. I mean, I'm not hating on it. I'm really not hating on this movie as much as we've probably been selling about how much we're hating on it for the last 2 years. I'm just a bit frustrated. It's a shame. It's a shame. But go on.
So we got Why So Sidious Pod. Says one of the most underrated MCU films. Story has issues, but it has incredible visuals.
Yeah, some of them are good.
I think Makari, was it? The speedy one.
I think the concept of the Celestials and the way that they're played out as well, in terms of the visual of the Celestials, amazing. Like when Arishem appears at the end, through the clouds and stuff, and it like picks up Cersei. I was like, that's a great moment. Yeah.
Mark my words, official. One bad note of the movie, but overall easy 8.5. The speedster part. Yeah, I don't know about one bad note. I mean, they're being very, very lenient towards the film order. They carry on. That's right. I'm not done. The story was great. Characters were great. Main villain, maybe the straight up underrated. Never understood the hate towards this movie. It was different.
It is different, and that is true. It is different. I think it goes back to my earlier comment. It had the potential to be something quite separate but like equally intertwined somehow. And but like, I did think it got pulled off.
Biscuits and Blu-rays. MCU's worst should have been a TV show. Absolutely.
Yep,
I think you said that earlier, but it definitely it would have been amazing to have an MCU show. So the Fan Club podcast says we both did not like Eternals. We thought it was boring and poorly written, and none of the characters were particularly compelling. The acting and special effects were decent, but overall nowhere near the list of top MCU films. MCU Center says underrated. We've got Pete, my cousin Pete. He's always there with a banging opinion. He goes, Eternals is one of the most underrated MCU films going. People bitched about it so much, and I guess that's because none of it was familiar and there was no relatable characters to the MCU. And when it gets down to it, they are basically a Justice League knockoff. But it was a really enjoyable film, morally ambiguous characters. There was no easy answers to the things they were dealing with. Don't get me wrong, I utterly hated them in the comics, and they would be a must not read if they guest appeared in a comic, but they were conceptually something different, and they had proper powers. Honest to God, godly powers. People need to get this film another watch with an open mind. Who knows, they might like it. P.S. Don't even get me started on that PCS. Jesus. PCS.
I don't know.
On that PCS. Oh, Pete, you'll have to elaborate, mate.
But that's a really good. There's some really good comments there. Yeah, it's another one. Sorry, it's another one.
It's got loads, mate. But I think absolutely. It's got some good stuff in there. Ben Simmons, this movie had so much potential. It throws at you so many moral and ethical questions that is relevant to our own world, which went through a period of colonialism. Without answering any of them. There are so many interesting plot points and stories that are left unexplored. The movie has a huge, absolutely, but that's the thing, right? So many that are unexplored, and yet we had to sit watching Druid talk for fucking 50 minutes. They're sat in like a shelter thing, just talking and talking. The movie has a huge pacing problem. It constantly shifts between exciting action and plot reveals to boring and irrelevant, inappropriate jokes and conversations that are totally avoidable. Director was way out of her depth. It's a film I like to think as non-Marvel now, and in doing so, I like the film a lot more. Had some really awesome special effects and one of the best on-screen speedsters to date.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think we've just seen The Flash. They did do that well, to be fair, comparing it to it. That's really good points, really great points. I think it goes to show, doesn't it? There's a real vastness with this movie. Maybe it will get better with age, you never know. It might become a cult classic in about 10 years time. I it's some moments, but I just think characterization again, what I said earlier about it's just okay, all right, they're a bad person. Oh, yeah, they're still a bad person. Or, they're really upset about their situation. Oh, they're still upset about their situation. Yeah. Find me, and that's what I'll challenge Pete. Cousin Pete, show me the three-dimensional characters. Where are they? There's very few of them in this film. It's just they have one, they're negative, and they're negative the whole way through. And that's it. Yeah. Yeah, literally. Right, mate. You give me a rating. I can't wait any longer, mate. Let's go.
2, 3. No, I'm going to go 3.5.
I'm going to go 3. I'm going to go 3.
Oh. Yeah.
Not a couple of crisps in that bag. Not loads, but the ones that are in there, they taste good. But it's just empty mostly.
Yeah. Is this the worst one that we've reviewed for you?
It's there with Ant-Man and the Wasp 2 for me. I think.
Same. Yeah.
I think potentially it's either Ant-Man and the Wasp 2 is really bad. I think it's just below Ant-Man and the Wasp 2 for me, which might be quite controversial. But yeah, mate, I just really, really frustrated from start to finish. And that's the problem. It just has the potential. And I can understand why people say it's underrated, but it doesn't get pulled off. If you compare this story to Shang-Chi's story, that is how you tell a story
another
in
level.
Shang-Chi.
Yeah.
Right?
And you've got just as much like history there. You know what I mean? That's years and years and his dad and amazing. Amazing.
That is how you tell a story through rich cultural heritage. You've got they had the same opportunity with this movie, and it just was too convoluted, too jam-packed, too many characters. Bah, yeah. Oh, I'm a little bit disappointed. I was like really rooting for like, oh my god, what if it's like amazing? What if my perspective changed? But for the most part, they kind of are very much solidified and still thinking that yes, dear listener, Eternals is a pile of shit.
It's an absolute tragedy.
Steaming hot mess.
Stay the fuck away. You have been warned.
Well, I tell you what, there were some good things there, but what's coming up next, mate?
Oh, your internet went a bit thingy there. What's coming up next? We have got Hawkeye. We're back to a TV series. Hawkeye. So I thoroughly enjoyed. So I'm very excited to get back into the world of Hawkeye. Yes, please.
I'll tell you what. Oh shit! I just smashed some table there. I tell you what, Forrest. How about this?
What, Matt?
We do a bit of Hawkeye, right?
Oh.
We cover the Hawkeye. And I think we should. I think we should throw in some wildcards.
Oh, wildcards! Yes.
I think it's about that time.
It is.
We haven't done it this year yet.
We haven't done any wild for over half a year, Matt. We've done wildcards. Let's do wildcards. So
we've got to bring that roulette out.
We'll do Hawkeye, and then we're bringing it. Oh,
got to get that roulette.
I reckon we can get it visually on the new software that we use. Yeah, I reckon we can visually see it. Yes, absolutely. So we will do Hawkeye for the next 2 weeks. And then we'll bring some wild cards for late July into August.
Yes.
Give me the wild card.
I cannot wait. Oh, that's perfect, because then what we can do, right? We can do Hawkeye, 2 episodes. And then what we'll do is then we'll do our monthly news roundup. And then we'll reveal the wild card movies in our July monthly roundup episode. How about that?
Fantastic. Can't wait, Matt.
I cannot wait. It's going to be great.
It's got. See you later, Matthew.
This is my audition for a villain in the MCU.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.